Right, Saturday afternoon. It is a pretty warm one. And you know, when things have been going fairly well and you've been happy for a while and the universe says, nope, this is not to be. So you know who's back to mess up my model room? The ants. And they are back with a vengeance. Now they're not even hiding just mainstream off the wall there. So sort of felt some things dropping on my head, and the inevitable was true. So I've been up in the ceiling, which is scorching hot. Well, I didn't go up. Half my body went up. I've chucked a bunch of ant sand, since that's about all that I know that works, which sort of reduced them for about a year, but they're obviously ready for more. And there's much more of them this time. So there's going to be a little bit of a war. And the problem is when they drop onto things, especially decals that happen to be lying around, their little ant acid is not good for things. So I really hope we can deal with this. It's not an ideal situation. They have a big nest up in the ceiling, in between the insulation material, I suspect. And there's not much you can do except chuck ant sand. So that's the one big thing. I found there's the Alpha Jet from 1995, 6, 7, maybe 1997, let's say, when I built this. And as I was saying, I went through this stage where quite a number of my aircraft I wanted to get up to airframe status. So that's why a couple of my models are in this. And that that primer which I was using at the time, probably not, I mean, it's not bad. This is Satin 129 Humbrol. Now when I feel it like that, it's borderline on the slightly more matte than you'd expect, but it was a very, very good gripping surface and smooth enough to put down any color afterwards, be it probably gloss, and the gloss then stayed pretty high gloss. So actually, I suppose not bad, but I would like a slightly more satin finish these days. This, now I can't remember. I often when I'm spraying, so I've closed those undercarriage doors, but I can't remember if I've closed them proper or only with blue tack or something. Now this model I was keeping very, very simple, so nothing inside has been done, except I didn't put the seats in so that I can actually paint them well and put them in afterwards. The blank offs for the engine intakes, I didn't really plan to do anything there, and the same for the outlets for the exhausts. In hindsight, probably would have been nice to actually give a little bit of attention, but it was sort of a stage where I was going through where I just want to climb in and get it done, build it. So this is not bad. This is built quite well, and can do a nice finish on that. So obviously no need to rush the paint job, just do a nice paint job. So I need to, obviously the thing that I like to do when I'm at this stage is find everything again. Decals, color scheme, box art, instructions, whatever, other pieces, canopy. In fact, that reminds me, I need to go and check through my canopies. I mean, I've got them all, but they've just moved so many times. Seats, canopy, And I don't think this one really needs to be on its undercarriage. That's a very nice clean aircraft, just like that. So the main focus is then a nice color scheme. I grabbed out this Curtis 75, is it? Hawk? Can't remember who this is, maybe a monogram. Now the one nice thing that I've done on this, and yes, that's a very nice symmetrical build, is that on the one side there you can see I've used plastic card to fill, the other side was okay, and that gave a you know, the right dihedral. So obviously there was one of those cases where either I needed to stretch the fuselage open at the bottom, but that would inevitably you know, require a bit of a split over there. It seems that that plastic card worked very well there. I do have the decals, which I haven't spotted yet. Oh no, actually I think I did. I think they've got orange and green stripes or something. So that's another one, sort of, that's not from the 90s. That's probably 10 to 15 years ago. Same with this one. This one's already got its greys on. This one, a gloss grey underside and a satin upper, and I suspect the reason was little bits of grey left over from things, and then I just grabbed this model and sprayed a bit there and sprayed a bit there. Doesn't really matter, except I just need a gloss surface for decals. So that's another one that's only got canopy remaining, and then a little bit of decals and some weathering. We'll get to that shortly. So the Buckeye, I've been through the parts. Interesting and weird aeroplane, and really made appealing by its color scheme. So very nice color scheme, which we will do that red and white. And the I think that's everything. Yes, it sort of looks, you'd expect a bit more decals, but actually that is correct. There's the sort of common, and then there's the US. So all of the rest of the scheme is masking, which is black, red, and white. Really not intricate on colors, but it just needs to be done nicely. Okay, and for instance, the little intake and nothing at the exhausts, and then the difference in color from the outer and the inner of the tanks. Now this model is a pretty simple one. I haven't made up my mind about undercarriage. I think it looks nice enough on undercarriage, actually. I mean, it also looks nice in flight. So this is the parts breakdown. It is actually very simple. Wings, upper and lower. Tip tank extras there. All the doors, undercarriage legs, wheels, intakes and exhausts, fuselage halves, two canopy parts, a arrestor hook, and that's it. So let's just look at the fuselage. I mean, the wings is actually the most typical, to be honest. The most typical of, there's nothing except the flaps and ailerons. So very, very simple, but nothing wrong with that. There is a little bit of sinkage on the bottom, but not a big deal. No blemish that I can see. Canopy parts are nice and clear. Seats are good enough. I'm not going to do anything more. Wheels are completely simple. There's just not much to that, but let's have a look at that. So quite a nice shape, sort of different. The very heavy recessed lines which you're used to with Matchbox. Now that recess makes for quite a nice wing joint. Quite a nice sort of long teardrop shape fuselage. Potential problems on the underside, so by this method, when I get to gluing, and the tail is, you know, one side like that, so it goes into there. When I get to gluing that, I completely ignore all of that. Just don't put any glue on the entire undersurface. Ensure that you get that very good, that very good, and of course 4 after line, so that you don't have the slightest little bit of offset there. I've probably already taken the pins off. No, I haven't taken the pins off, so how come it slides? Interesting. Okay, they've got pins, but there's no receptor to the pins. I don't know if that's common. What is this thing stuck here? Oh, okay. There's one very tiny little part which I've stuck on the inside there, which must have been an aerial that I cut off, is it? Little nose aerial. Let's just check the instructions. I probably won't actually put it on. Yes, it is. There's a tiny little aerial under there, which I've cut off, which I would inevitably remove for sanding. A little bit of a different view of it there. And I don't need that on. Well, sorry, it appears it's not the aerial, it's actually supposed to be the pitot. Yeah, so anyway, I did keep it on there. And then obviously having cleaned up the bottom so that you don't have that ridge or the bits of tree there, and then you need to figure out, is it possible for you to put pressure on it such a way that you could either get the one side down or the other side down. So first I'll just have to clean that up and sand it and check. It looks to me like it'll be not bad at all. I probably won't do anything about that. Is it worth doing anything? I mean, I usually only view the aircraft from one side anyway, so I don't think there's much point in doing a whole lot of filling there, but I'll think about it. So that one you'd leave, but that one and that one, the vertical one, you'd leave, and that one could possibly do with filler. You're not going to damage any detail because there isn't any there, so it is possible for me to fill that. Maybe I will. It also ends up being exactly on the red-white border of the paintwork. Which makes it even less visible if I don't do anything. So, you know, it's got minimal panel lines. It's got the air brakes in, so you can do a bit of weathering. There's enough panel lines to do weathering. Oh, it's got a little bit of side shelves for the cockpits. So actually there is a little bit of cockpit work that one can do. You know, just to just to make it slightly appealing, because you will be able to see reasonably well. That's interesting. So I'm busy trying to fit that, but it's not actually going on there. So you see, so I would need to be, because this canopy thickness is sort of not able to fit on the available shelf space there, so I'd have to remove some of that, and that's the easiest, and no big deal there. In fact, one can even remove this entire piece and the other side, glue them together, and then install them, work it down a little bit and install it as a separate piece, sort of the instrument panel shroud. I'll think about that. Might be making unnecessary work. The seat, is that about right? Oh, that's too high now. Not the greatest seat position. So a very simple model, but will look very, very nice. A very good gloss finish. The most difficult is this black anti-dazzle panel curved to the nose. So there's masking from a nice straight line down into a curve there, and then underneath the nose, and of course, you know, that's very visible. That's right, that is almost the first thing you're going to notice if that curve is not done well. I'll have to think about how I'm going to actually do that. So luckily these decals are actually still very, very nice. So we should be able to use all of them. When I showed you the ones for the lightning, by the way, the Matchbox ones, those are really not good. So we'll have a bit of a play around and see what decals we can use. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly talk about the starting process of this one. Now this is just to get a nice paint job. This is not correcting anything exterior wise, except that I might close undercarriage doors. Now there was a little bag of parts which would be somewhere around here, which may have included the extra broken off undercarriage pieces that can be dealt with afterwards. So upper surface is, oh, I was looking at this. Let's see if we can just get a little bit of a budge, because if I can get that canopy off, sometimes it'll just crack off easily if it was on with a very weak joint. This one appears to be well glued. Now that, the reason I'd like that off is because that makes my sanding of the fuselage, I'm not even hearing a slight crack when I do that, and the crack I mean is the glue joint crack, not obviously the main part. Now this, there's a little bit of a hint, there's a little bit of a hint of crazing near the back there. Now, is that super glue vapor? Difficult to say. Now the other way, oh, did I just feel something there? I'll have a bit of a play with that and see. The other thing is you can do a little bit of leverage. I don't normally use the scalpels for that because the blades of the scalpel tips can break off easier than the plastic. But if you can find if you can get just enough leverage to, oh, there, did you hear that? So then that might be able to come off. Okay, so this is 360 sandpaper. This is sort of my normal rougher sandpaper, 360-400. Now, the wing has got a lot of panel lines, but it's also got rather large, those. Do you see those and those? Now, they are more raised, and that is going to throw a spanner in the works because they're going to, and at the back here actually, those, but that's okay, they can just get sanded right down, whereas these bigger circular ones, I just want to show you a little bit of what's going to happen. What I'm looking for is a reduced raised panel line. What would this be? Would this be a Hasegawa? I'm sure this is a Hasegawa. Okay, so I want that to be close to the surface, but still raised. So what you can do as well, not with this knife, my proper knives are inside, but you can help the process by reducing these bigger ones. That's these 5 that I'm just so that your sandpaper can actually start getting to the surface there rather than being kept above. Okay, that's not too bad. So I've taken off some of the height there. Let's just give it a crosswise, try and get it down a bit more. Now you can immediately see if you've done it correctly, because you'll be hitting the surface very close to them, and you can see that that's what's happening. Now this green paint, you can see, is coming off very easily, and I'm going through to the white plastic. That's no problem at this point. I'm only focusing on the, I mean, this is a very light sanding. Keep in mind, this is a very light sanding, and I'm only reducing the raised panel lines. If I hit the white plastic at points, that's completely irrelevant. It's going to get a respray, probably metal, probably a nice metal skim, not the screen. But leaving enough of that so that I can sand it afterwards again and actually have that detail shining through, but reaching us a good flat surface for decals. These circular things, I can try and do the same thing and just get them down to surface level. it's sort of nice every now and again to do a little restoration. I suppose in a way it's actually a practice. You could call it a practice where you do have decals that you're going to put on. You are going to do a spray job, but you didn't build the model, and it's not specifically that you're trying to get it up to the highest of standard, although sometimes it is possible that you may want to. If the basic airframe is built to a good quality but needs a good restoration, but often that is not the case. Almost never is it the case where you have a very well built airframe and a bad paint job. It's more the case that you just have an average aircraft which could benefit from a modern, or current spray job, nice paints. So this is almost where I want it. I need to take off a little bit more of those circular things. Like I said, that there, that there, that there, that doesn't matter at all. It's only the panel lines we're looking at. And those panel lines I have virtually got the goal is that after final spray and a floor wax spray, sand it again to get these panel lines coming through. Now some of you, if you're on top of the game, you're going to realize that what I'm going to get through is white. Because it's a white plastic, I'm going to get white panel lines coming through on a surface. Now what's white going to look like coming through on silver? Very minimal. What is white going to look like coming through on something else? I could do a black scheme. I'm not sure that there's really any other options I'd want to consider. Silver is sort of the classic. It would fit nicely with the decals. Black would work in that it would hide almost everything, and the panel lines would shine up very, very well. I'm thinking maybe black actually might be the thing. Okay, so the only problem that you have when there are different heights of items like these circular things, which I'm trying to reduce, is that you stand the risk of sanding off everything around it, but not the actual item, which means your final finish will be great, except you'd still have these circles sticking up. So it's a little bit tricky, but anyway, that's sort of what I'm aiming at. Now I don't know what paint this is, so I don't really know if I can successfully paint over it. I hope so. I'm almost thinking it's an acrylic green. I'm not smelling anything, and it comes off somewhat powdery, quite easily powdery. So I'll do the same on this side just so you can see it again, but I'll just start with, how many minutes are we at? I must just not make the video too long while I'm sitting here working, but on the other hand, you don't often see me doing stuff. Try and get those circles off slightly better than the other side. Sometimes one side is very much easier because I'm right-handed, and now I can get this knife in on the flat, which I can't do easily on the other side. This way the wing angle and the way I'm holding it all just works for a very easy removal on this side. Okay, that's very good. And these 5 things: oversized aileron, now I don't know if you if you have people at your club who bring models of this nature, you know, just sort of passing models on old stuff, one step short of the bin, that's the ideal sort of thing for this. Okay, so remove those. There's 4 circles, one little goodie next to the circle, those 5 things. Circles are virtually gone. So the first, so the wings is always the easiest, of course, and I don't need to do the underside because you're not going to see the underside. This is sort of a visual restoration. Not sure where I put it, but it's not really one that I think I'd want to hang up. And even though I would put decals on the underside, that's I don't need to put as much effort into that. Now those panel lines are really, really handy afterwards to come through the paint job. Now that's not the most ideal, of course, a black with white panel lines coming through. It's great for visibility of the panel lines, but it still doesn't make white panel lines, you know, the correct way that they should be, and that's just tough luck. That's just the way it is. And using this sanding technique for reducing panel lines and yet still having them all visible, you know, works on certain paint plastic colors, as I've said, and not it could work on others. In this case, if I use a dark color and I bring them through visibly, yes, they'll look quite nice, even though not quite correct. But sometimes, like for instance the Islander, you really don't want yellow panel lines coming through anything, but the Matchbox doesn't really have that. But there's certain plastic colors where you really don't want that color panel line. White you can still live with. So if I can get the canopy off, then I can sand the whole thing lightly without accidentally scratching the canopy. And I will continue doing that inside. I also want to, this normally if you sanding a humbrol, you can sort of smell it, but this has got like zero smell. It's just dusty, so I'm almost guaranteeing that's just an acrylic, probably a Tamiya acrylic. And I'm going to start digging into this one because it's such a simple build as well. It's just a bit bigger, and remember I already said I'm leaving off some parts, and I might even do this undercarriage up. This was that very simple P47 by, oh yes, the one which I was looking all over the box to see who had redone it, and it was who had done it originally, Testers. So this very, very old Testers kit, but I'll just see if I can start gluing some parts, start getting an airframe ready. Well, need to sort of spray some interior, and the focus of this one is just a good looking quick finish. Now just to end with, one of the other things which I need to start progressing, because these single builds on the workbench at a time don't really allow for the big aircraft to ever come in. So if I tackle one of those 1/24th Airfix kits that I've got, the one in its old boxing, and then the Stuka in its not sure where I put that, the Stuka in its newer boxing but still the old kit, just starting to build little bits as we go along, so that possibly at some stage during next year we might be close to having a 124th aircraft finished. Now the Hurricane was not going to get its engine in. Stuka, I'm not sure. They have to look at, we can discuss it when we get to it. But the question is, and you can put your votes in as comments on this video, would you like the Hurricane tackle, the 124th Airfix Hurricane, old box, as we looked at in previous videos, or the 124th Stuka? I don't mind, since I haven't built either, and I think both will be awesome builds. So that, depending on the votes, and I know only about sort of 10 to 15 people comment, so we'll see if we can get to 10 to 15 votes. And of course, the people that actually sit till minute number 35 on a video, put in your vote for Hurricane or Stuka, 124th Hurricane, 124th Stuka, and I will start, depending on who wins that voting, start doing gluing halves of things together, start spraying some interior bits, start looking at cockpit, and so on and so on. Okay, that is it. I'm going to go inside and have a stern word with the ants. Till next time, cheerio.